if you really trust your God, why do you allow unbelievers to kill your faith? I don't have to argue this with you. God is gonna, I don't know, you know, you hear me say it all the time. My mama used to, one of her favorite things, she would say all the time, boy, I don't know about all of that. I don't understand all that. All I know is that I believe God. Amen. You know how people come with all this Greek and this Hebrew and all of this, and I'm knocking at, my mama would say a lot. She said, boy, let me tell you something. I don't know nothing about all of that. Sometimes she would even tell me, I can't even find where it is. All I know is I'm trusting God. Amen. Lack of understanding or revelation. In John chapter 3, even when it came to salvation, John chapter 3, verse 3. And Jesus talking to Nicodemus, Jesus answered and said unto him, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And Nicodemus, who was a religious leader or an expert of the law at that time, a Pharisee, replied to Jesus. Nicodemus said unto him in verse 4, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Verse 5, Jesus answered, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. See, a lot of times, the reason we don't understand what God is doing is because we are trying to understand it on the natural level. You cannot figure out the spiritual things of God naturally. You can't look at the natural things and determine what God can and cannot do. Hallelujah. Another enemy of faith, along with a lack of revelation, is doubt and unbelief. Genesis chapter 15, verses 4 and 5. Somebody say, I didn't know we were having a Bible trio this morning. Some of y'all glad y'all got this modern technology, don't you? Y'all laughing at us, just got to turn pages. You don't even have to know what Genesis is, Revelations. You don't even have to know if it's in the Old Testament or the New Testament. You just hit it, and it pops up, and y'all laughing. But sometimes technology will fail you, so I would encourage you to still educate yourself, become with the Bible. But Genesis chapter 15, verse 4 says, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto Abram, at that time was Abram, we know him as Abraham, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be of thine heir. Verse 5, and he brought him forth abroad and said, look now towards heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. Verse 6, now God is showing Abram, who at this time, we know Abraham, that when you change it from Abram to Abraham, meaning father of many, and therefore him not having any children. And we know the story by this time, his wife being old. But yet God is telling him that he is going to have a child from thy bowels. In other words, you're going to have a child that biologically I'm going to use you to help produce. This seemed like an impossibility, but yet verse 6 said that as God showed him this, his response was, and it said, he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And if you know how we started out in Hebrews chapter 11, if you go back, it goes even more talking about the faith of Abraham. But what I wanted you to see here is initially when God approached Abraham with what seems like something that was impossible, that seems like how in the world naturally is this going to take place, he believed God. But then when we go to Genesis chapter 18, starting with verse 13. Do I need to go to a rest stop? Did I leave anybody on the freeway? Are we all still there? Everybody still got their lights on? Amen. Look, and you know how it is. We follow each other. Look to the person behind you. Say, are you still with us?
Still with us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Genesis, as we look here, and chapter 18, verse 13. And the Lord said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Now, I'm not going to go back and read this, but what is happening here, we see how when God approached Abraham and told him, it says how he believed God. But now they tell Sarah, his wife, and Sarah's response to this was she laughed. Really? And there was a difference here. It wasn't so much with her a lack of understanding or a lack of revelation as it was that I don't think this is going to happen. You know how we said, no, this ain't going to happen. And she didn't believe that this ain't taking place. She wasn't asking how. She laughed at this. You know, this just seemed, so far-fetched, so unbelievable. Her knowing her age, knowing the age of her husband and all the other biological things that go into that, how in the world is this? So her response was to laugh. In verse 14 it says, is anything, then the angel appeared and said, wait a minute, is anything too hard for the Lord? You laughing at this. You thinking that this don't make sense. Ain't no way this going to happen. And this should be our response as believers. When the world looks at us and say, come on now, really? You really believe Noah in the flood? Brother Clyde, you going to tell me a man going to build a boat and he going to put all these come on now. You really, ain't no way. Come on. No. Wait a minute. You telling me you broke? I know the job that you work on, and you telling me you're going to be debt free. The world laughs. The world laughs at the Christian. The world laughs at our faith. The world laughs at our belief. The world laughs at our steadfastness. The world laughs at us. But instead of us being embarrassed and hiding in a corner, our response should be to them, is anything too hard for the Lord? Our response to our relatives should be, is anything too hard for my God? Amen. Not being ashamed. You know how it is that we intimidated because sometimes God will tell us something or give us something that's foolish to us. They're making fun of us. No. I'm standing firm because I believe my God. At the time appointed, everybody say appointed. At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of life. And Sarah shall have a son. Now, after they, instead of them being intimidated and backing down like so many of us do, but yet they challenged her. Say, wait a minute, is there anything too hard for God? You asked me, is there a God? Do you know there's not a God? You telling me that God can't do it. Do you really know that he can? And so after this, then Sarah began to be embarrassed. It said, then Sarah said, oh, wait a minute. I didn't laugh. Verse 15 said, then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not. In other words, Sarah then denied that she doubted what God said. She denied, saying, wait, I didn't believe that. I don't know. But then it says, Sarah, we heard you. For she was afraid and said, nay. But it said, but no, thou didst laugh. Yes, you did. You know how people are. It's amazing after something happens, then they say, oh, I knew that was going to take place. I knew God was going to bring you out of that. The same one that said you was going to die. I knew God was going to raise you up. I knew it. No, and they were the same ones that said, girl, I went to see her. We're going to have a funeral soon. Is there anything too hard for God? Is there anything too hard for God? Without faith, it is impossible to please him. So one of the enemies of faith is lack of revelation and understanding. Another enemy of faith is doubt and unbelief, which we have just looked at with Sarah. And I'm moving on. I got some more examples, but I see some of y'all now. It's hard to talk to people when their minds in la la land. Was that a movie? I better not say that. I ain't seen the movie, so I don't know what it's even about. Somebody say, did you see it? I don't know. But people also are enemy of faith. Because people will always try to get you to doubt what God has said. But what you got to understand, before you get mad and upset with these people, recognize that most of the time, when they criticize you about your faith, it's because they are speaking based upon two things. Number one, they are speaking based upon their experience of God. And because it didn't seem like it worked for them or worked in their life, they don't think it's going to work for you. And then they are speaking out of their theological belief in what God can and cannot do. And that goes back once again to the revelation or understanding. Don't be so quick to get upset. Because they don't understand. So since they haven't experienced it, since they don't understand it, since they have never seen it, then they tell you it's not going to happen. That's why your testimony is so powerful. And that's why God allowed you to go through the things that you go through. Because he knows that it's your experience of what you have been through that's going to give you the strength and the faith to stand in the midst of opposition, that when people come and say that it cannot be done, you're going to have a book of experience of history to draw from to say, you know what, that's what they said about this situation and that situation, but God brought me through that. I know he's going to bring me through this. That's why I was saying at the beginning, sometimes it seems like instead of God just doing something, he takes you the long route. But as long when he's taking you that, he's teaching you lessons. He's giving you experiences that he knows that you're going to need, that if you didn't have them, that when others begin to doubt, when others begin to fall away, when others begin to reject you, when others begin to laugh, if you didn't have those experiences that you could draw from, you also will give up. Amen. But when you know that God has brought me through this, he brought me through that, he brought me through this, he brought me through that, and when I get here, it's too late for. I have faith for now. I may not know where he's taking me. I may not know where I'm going. But when I look back and see where he has brought me from, I believe God. So you think that God just allowed you to go through that because he wanted you to suffer. You thought that God just wanted you to go through that because he wanted you to be in pain. But God said, there is somebody that needs your faith. There is somebody that's going to need to believe because of what I brought you through. And therefore, I'm going to allow you to go through that. I want to know if there's anybody in here that will stand on your feet and say, God, you can trust me. You can trust me with this situation. You can trust me with this circumstance. Because of where you are bringing me from, I realize that it's not just for me, but I have a child. I have a grandchild. I have a great-grandchild that's going to need this experience that you are bringing me through. God want to use you, that you can be a faith in somebody else. We get in a pity party wanting to give up because we can't see that it's not about you. God is looking down the road and he's saying there's somebody that's going to need your experience. Can God trust you? Can God trust you with what you are going through? I want to know, do we have anybody in here that will look and say, God, you can trust me? Hallelujah. Because see, we think that faith comes to people just because of somebody that's standing behind this pulpit. But there is somebody that's not going to walk in this church. But they need that faith message that God has worked out in you to let them know that God is able and that there is nothing too hard or impossible for my God. Hallelujah. 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 Amen. God, get ready to close. Can you just give me another minute? You know, it's amazing. Before I started preaching, I used to hate when preachers did that. I feel like, you know how when you're a child and a parent do something and you say, I'll never do that. And now I find myself doing some of the same things that I used to hate other preachers to do. So y'all just forgive me. But no, I do want to get out this last point and then we'll go home. The last enemy that I want to talk about, and I really have talked about it in a roundabout way, is a lack of patience. A lack of patience. Notice how in verse 14 of Genesis, chapter 18, it said, is anything too hard for the Lord? It says, at the time appointed. At the time appointed. At the time appointed. Because God has a set time for things, and we can't rush him. We can't make him. But because we are waiting, a lot of times we lose hope and we lose faith because we don't know the appointed time. At the time appointed, I will return unto thee, according to the time of life. God says he is a God of purpose You hear me say it over and over again. We should know this now. And a God of timing. And that's why a lot of times we lose faith and hope in God, is because by us not understanding this, it seems like some things is just a long time coming. And if things don't happen in the time that we expect it, we lose hope. We lose faith. And as you heard me say it before, be not weary in doing what's right. Because if you don't faint, if you don't give up, if you don't lose hope, you shall reap in that due season, in that appointed time. God, even though it seems like sometimes things are all out of order, God is a God of order, and God is a God of timing, and God has everything right in order. You know, I didn't even know they were going to put this up, but I like that. Sometimes when things are falling apart, they may actually what? Thank you, God, how you just line things up. If you would, as we close, turn with me to Hebrews, and this will be my last verse, if the Lord says so. Hebrews chapter 6. But I really wanted to get this across to you. Hebrews chapter 6. And I encourage you, go back and read all of Hebrews, because Hebrews is really a book of faith. A book of faith. A book of faith. And Hebrews really was written because we give, or we ascribe Paul as being the author or the writer of Hebrews, but actually it's not definitively been established that he is the author or the writer, but we do give him credit for it. But we do know that the purpose of the writings of the book of Hebrews was because there were Christians that was going through great sufferings and great trials. And so therefore Hebrews was written so the people would have faith and encouragement of knowing who God is. My timekeeper says, keep going. Amen. Look, don't get mad with my timekeeper now, because some people talk about it, but see, my timekeeper know one thing. Some people ain't gonna come back now. Keep them too long if you want to. It says, verse 10, for God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. Some of you remember that. Which ye have showed towards his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. And we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that ye be not slothful. Don't be slothful. Don't be lazy. Don't be slack. Don't get complacent. But follow of them who through what? Faith and patience inherited the promise. Faith and patience work together for you to work towards what God has promised. For when God made promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself. When it's saying that he could not swear to no one greater, that lets us understand, you know how, like for instance, if a preacher or a judge is performing a wedding or something, he says, by the power that's invested in me. Or how police officers say, stop in the name of the law. In other words, you let others see that you're speaking in an authority that's higher than you. But it says that when God made the promise, there was no one or nothing that was higher. Amen. The only reason I'm bringing this out, then that lets you know that when God gives you a promise, when God tells you something, he don't have to go to nobody and ask for permission. Can this happen? Amen. Can this take place? Amen. But he is the authority. You know how sometimes you say, let me see the manager, or let me know. God say, wait, I am the authority. That's right. Let us stand. What has God promised you? Today, if there's anyone in the sound of my voice that's not saved, I ask you to come to the altar. Or maybe there's somebody. You have faith to believe, but you would just like someone to exercise faith with you. You're going through something and it just seems stubborn. It just seems impossible. It seems like it's not going to happen. It seems like it's not going to take place. The altar is open. Amen. We're going to ask some ministers to come if you want someone to pray with you.